And I think that that's really common, especially with solopreneurs, because we are used to doing everything by ourselves. We're also used to controlling everything. And we want our brand and our reputation to be intact at all times. We don't want to look stupid. We want to look smart. We don't want to say something that causes people to doubt us in any way. And so what ends up happening is you second guess yourself, and then it never happens. But what my mission really is that it's okay to struggle. And if it's a pain point, if this is something that is taking up time and sucking energy from your brain, get rid of it. Take it off your plate. Give it to somebody like me entirely or partially. And that alone not only releases some of your time in your day, but that mental energy. And that alone is worth its weight in gold.
Sarah Sypniewski is a ghostwriter, editor, writing coach, and empire expander with 25 years of experience working with storytellers, visionaries, and outside-the-box thinkers across various fields and industries. Her clients include publishing giant John Wiley & Sons, for whom she writes and edits books in the For Dummies brand. She also works with clients like hedge fund managers to craft investor pitch materials that seal the deal, celebrity hairstylists who want to help their communities, and undercover storytellers who haven't yet embraced their own powerful voice. Sarah brings her true love of collaboration and creativity to her work, and that translates in how she supports her clients. She works side by side and heart to heart with her clients to validate and activate their authentic voices so their ideas, products, and services find the people who need them most. Sarah believes that everyone has a story, and her mission is to help them tell it. And she's not the only one. Sarah's work has secured her clients over $30 million in deals and opportunities. Sarah, I am so grateful and happy to welcome you to Prospecting on Purpose.
Thanks, Sarah. It is a joy to be here.
Well, your bio was super impressive, and I know we had to actually cut some stuff out to make sure it all fit. But one of the things that really shines through for me is that while your offering is very diverse, it all clearly centers around writing. So I want to open our interview with, what is the best piece of writing advice you've ever received?
Okay, so obviously I've received a lot over the course of my life and career. And when I thought about this, I think what it came down to for me was actually a quote by William Faulkner, which is, if there's a story in you, it has to come out. And ultimately, that's what I believe, and that's what informs my entire work, because writing can be an art, but it's also a skill. And sometimes that skill trips people up. But at the end of the day, if you have something to say, even if you don't know how to say it, you got to get it out. And that's what I'm here to help people do, to support that journey wherever they are.
I already feel like that really resonated with me for something so silly. Like, I don't know if I shared this with you, but I have an idea for a Christmas movie, and it's such a departure from the business, but it's such a clever idea, and I think I can do it. And so when I tell people, I think they're like, what? I'm like, I don't know how to explain it. I just want to do it. So it's
No,
story wanting to come out.
exactly. And I think that where people kind of stop themselves in this creative process is they judge it right out the door, or they edit it right out the door, and then it never sees the light of day. And that's unfortunate. So yeah, take that advice to heart, because it will change your entire way of operating with writing, but also business.
Okay, yeah, I really appreciate that. I like to think of it as a skill and an art, and we're going to get into both of those. But first, let's dive a little bit deeper into an overview of your business and who you support and how people find you and hire you, because I think that's going to help us set the tone for the rest of the interview.
Right. Okay. So I am a writer, an editor, and a writing coach, which basically means that people who are struggling with any part of their writing can come to me, and I'll work with them one-on-one wherever they're starting. So some people come to me with an idea, but they don't know how to get it out. So I'll coach them. We'll have a lot of sessions like this where we're just talking through the emotions, we're talking through the ideas and the concepts, and we formulate the entire project kind of from square one. They do most of the writing, I do most of the talking and the idea supporting kind of stuff. I also write directly for my clients. There are some clients who they don't have the time to write, especially solopreneurs or entrepreneurs who are hustling at all hours, and they don't have time to write marketing copy. They don't have time to write emails or formal business letters. I have clients who will just keep me kind of in their back pocket on a monthly basis, and they throw me stuff as they need it done.
Mm,
And finally, I work with people who have a block kind of emotionally or mentally. So sometimes it's not that they can't write or they don't have time to write, it's that there's something blocking them. So I can work with them in that regard. So whether it's fully writing something for them, editing it for them, or coaching them through the process, people come to me when they need to get it done, and they need to get it done well.
okay. So execution and execution with quality. And I think as you're talking, I'm like, oh, I could use you in all three of those buckets, really. And I think about, because I wrote a lot when I was growing up. And, I was on the newspaper staff in high school, I was editor of
No
the
way.
yearbook. Like I was into all of this. And I actually just went through some old boxes that my parents wanted to toss. So I went through it all and I found all these like poems and stories and like stuff I totally forgot about. I'll send you them because they're comical. But
I'd love to read them.
but it was kind of a little bit of a like a trip reading through it because it's something I used to do all the time. Then I didn't. And now that I've been building my business, I find myself writing all the time. And I have been surprised how difficult it's been. Even though it's something I know I'm capable of, it's it's very challenging. So I'd be curious, is that like the part of the reason people seek you out or seek someone like you out to support them?
Yeah, and let's talk more about that. Like what are you struggling with exactly?
Well, I think part of it's probably a time balance. Like I don't I'd rather spend my time having conversations, building relationships and bringing income into my business, but I
Yeah.
know that the writing element is a big part of it. And so I think time may be part of the blockage, but also I don't know, it's uncomfortable to put yourself out there. Like I guess
Yeah.
it's like the nutshell of it.
Yeah, and I think that that's really common, especially with solopreneurs, because we are used to doing everything by ourselves. We're also used to controlling everything, and we want our brand and our reputation to be intact at all times. We don't want to look stupid. We want to look smart. We don't want to say something that causes people to doubt us in any way. And so what ends up happening is you second guess yourself, and then it never happens. But what I try to tell people, and what my mission really is that it's okay to struggle. And if it's a pain point, if this is something that is taking up time and sucking energy from your brain, get rid of it. You know, take
Mhm.
it off your plate, give it to somebody like me entirely or partially. And that alone not only releases some of your time in your day, but that mental energy. And that alone is worth its weight in gold. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think the mental energy is an interesting part of it too, because you have to kind of get in a brain or a mindset of like, okay, I'm writing right now. But if you get a phone call or you have to answer an email or you jumping from meeting to meeting, I think it's challenging to just focus and really narrow down that.
Yeah, it is. And I think with writing, one of the, I know we're kind of not right there right now, but to kind of battle this right here, break it into chunks, knowing that you only have maybe 30 minutes or maybe 20 minutes to work on your writing at this time. What can you get done in those 15 or 20 minutes? Set your expectations low so that you're not judging yourself for not meeting, some sort of goal, you know?
That's helpful. And I think about one of the things that I wanted to ask you that I find very interesting is the $30 million in deals and opportunities
Huh.
that you supported with your clients, because I think I'm a money talks type of person and I like the idea of the writing honestly converting to revenue. But I'd
Yeah.
be interested to hear from you, like what are some of the maybe like the strategies or your North Star when you're writing with the goal of converting business for your clients or yourself?
Sure. So I write for clients across many genres, and that means I have to be able to understand the client's voice immediately. And sometimes that's challenging because they maybe don't even understand their voice. So it's taking a beat to really assess the situation and talk with them. Like any writing project I take on, especially when they're new, this is the first step, a meeting like this, where I can hear their voice, where I can see how they are in the world. I ask for materials that they've already written. I ask for things that they see out in the world that they love and inspire them. And so we kind of start there. Um, and then we talk about who their client is, who are they targeting? And we really talk specifics, because the problem sometimes is, in business, we want to talk to everyone, right? Because we want all the clients all the time. But if we're talking to everyone, we're talking to no one. And that's sort of the risk we take. And I know that kind of fits along with your own business philosophy too, is like, you sort of have to understand who you're a fit for, because you're not a fit for everyone. And so working with my clients to say, okay, let's dial it in. Who are you going after? Let's target those people. What do you have to say to them? What do you have to offer to them? What do you want to leave them feeling after they've read your material?
Mhm.
And so when we can create copy that taps into that specificity, and also when we can create copy that taps into emotion, that's the winning combination, because people do not buy or purchase something from a cognitive place, right? They're not thinking with their brains when they purchase. What causes someone to hit that buy now button is pure emotion. So you really have to tap into that place. You have to take someone into the story of how they feel and how you can be their solution. And so that's what I work with my clients on every day.
Wow. Okay. So I think I understand the niche down and understand who you're talking to, but let's pull the thread more on the concept of tapping into what they're feeling and making decisions based on emotion. Can you expand on that a little bit more?
For sure. So, we're all humans, right? And at the end of the day, we might do our research, it kind of sounds counterintuitive, right? Because when we want to buy a product, what do we go? We go to Google and we start
Mhm.
spreadsheeting and we compare the prices, we compare all the features. But ultimately, we are looking for a solution to a very specific problem. We are looking for relief, okay, when we buy anything. And to understand that, you really have to kind of dive deep into what your client is feeling, right? And what any of us are feeling in any given moment. And in order to do that, you yourself, this is kind of getting into the woo a little bit, but you yourself sort of have to have a way to tap into your own awareness and your own authenticity and understanding how that process works. Because if you don't kind of have a little bit of understanding of the psychology behind the buying, then you can't write copy that places your client or your potential client as the protagonist in their own story and in control of their own outcome. And that outcome includes you.
Mm, that's wonderful because I feel like a lot of the research that I've done and what I've packaged in my workshops is we have a couple different modules. One of the modules is around storytelling. And I think with sales professionals in particular, you think you're crushing your sales call because you're able to answer a bunch of product facts.
Yep.
But then if you are only speaking in facts and figures, the brain only lights up in two areas. But if you weave in storytelling, it lights up in 7 areas, you become more memorable, and usually, especially in B2B, they have to turn around and basically sell it on your behalf, and they're gonna let all those facts and figures just roll off of it, but if you can tie a story into it, I guess I never put together that it's really the storytelling is evoking the emotion, whereas the facts and figures are just logic.
It's true. And more than that, what it does is it actually retrains your brain. It creates new neural pathways, right? So this idea of visualizing yourself doing something like Michael Phelps, right? His routine, his Olympic winning routine included huge visualization exercises. Every time he could see himself in the pool, he could feel himself in the pool. He saw every movement that he did to win every single race, and he did. And so what that does is it makes your mind believe that you've done it. It
Mm,
makes your heart believe that you've done it. So if you can write copy that makes your client believe they've already done it, feel that they've already found the solution to their pain point, they're in.
that is
And,
cool.
and that's authentic, because it's not just about swindling someone, right? Like, it's about actually being in service to someone. And the writing that you do is very important, because it has to reflect the power that you have to help this person.
Mhm. Okay, so what would you say to someone because I think B2B in particular is a little bit more of an offender to this, but maybe I'm biased because I see a lot of it. But there's a reason B2B marketing and B2B is so messy. Just because I think people haven't really tapped into this, and I see a lot of logic arguments or facts
Hmm.
and figures. So, what can people do if they have those like logic lenses? How can they? I mean, you already kind of said put yourself in your ideal client's shoes, but what are other ways to really kind of tap into that emotion that you're talking about?
Yeah, I mean, I think when you're dealing with a lot of math and figures and stuff like that, you kind of have to understand the why, right? Behind it, like the why behind these measurements, the why behind the graphs and the charts, and what does that translate to in real life? I mean, graphs and stuff, they're boring. They don't have anything to offer us when we look at them. I mean, it's impressive and it tells us, well, you have a good product, but there are other good products out there as well. And so even if you can find one thing about your company, or product or service that speaks to like your culture or your philosophy or even your vision, just that one thing, put one sentence in there that gives us a little bit of your personality, a little bit of your company voice.
Oh, that's
And
very
just start small, start that small. And it may not be for you. Not everybody has to do this woo woo like really emotional thing. It's not a fit for everybody. But hey, sprinkle a little bit in here and there and just see how it does. Even, you can even pull in a focus group, right? Of a few of your repeat clients, trusted clients that come back and back. You don't have to worry about losing their business, and ask them what they think about this. Ask them what they think your true voice is, and workshop a few things with them.
okay. I like that idea. Feedback, because one of the things that I've been doing with my clients is I'll get feedback and they'll tell me a story, which we love, a story of what they used and what the results were, and that's helping me sharpen my marketing skills. So if we're not getting feedback from people, that's a great opportunity to really, I think, capture some of those storytelling and ways to weave in the emotion to it.
Yeah, I mean, because ultimately writing is connecting to human minds and hearts. So you kind of have to get good at listening,
Mm.
listening to your clients and also yourself.
So if people want to work on this on their own, and I'm thinking about like people that want to write LinkedIn posts or people that want to work on their ebooks or people that, I write the solo podcast episodes. They take a lot of time, and I really have to get into it and get to that piece. Can you share some ways that people can start working on first, like the emotional piece? I know we've talked about it quite a bit, but I also want to look at like more tangible takeaways on how to start being a more effective writer.
Sure. So let's say you want to put up a LinkedIn post on Tuesday and you have no idea what to write about. The first step, I would take a moment, maybe 5 minutes, set a timer for 5 minutes, and type out on your computer just all the things that have stood out to you today so far. Like, what are remarkable things that have kind of stuck in your brain? You don't know why, and maybe it doesn't make sense to your business. Just put it on the paper. Do that for 5 minutes.
Okay.
After 5 minutes, go through your list, see if there's anything you could write about. See if there's anything that's totally crazy, get rid of that. But see what you're left with after you start eliminating things that maybe aren't, relevant. And then what you can do is choose one. And this is where something like an AI platform could come in handy. As a writer, I know that's like, I'm suggesting AI, but it's a great starting point, because what you can do is you can jump into a platform. You can say, hey, write a LinkedIn post about how I had a reflection on the beach about great customer service. And then
Oh,
just see what happens. See, it'll spit out trash, I can almost guarantee you. But that's not the point. What the point is that it's overcome that writer's block for you. So you already have words on the page, and maybe there's even just one sentence, one paragraph you can take, and you can start like crafting your own post from that. The other thing is, you can collaborate. Don't feel like you have to exist in this silo. So if it's time to write a LinkedIn post and you're coming up blank, go out for coffee with your favorite colleague, or call, if you're a solopreneur, call your favorite accountability buddy and be like, yo, can we like do a 10-minute brain dump? Can we just shoot ideas back and forth? Can you tell me about your day? Like, what's standing out to you today? Because ideas are not sacred. Ideas are meant to be shared, and they generate on top of each other. So if you find yourself in kind of this like vacuum, the antidote is to seek connection.
mm,
And so once you've got that connection to another person, somebody who is supportive, you know, somebody who loves your work, somebody who is your cheerleader. Once you're working with them a little bit, it'll seem less scary. You can also, of course, work with someone like me, but you don't have to hire out. You could go to somebody you know who's a marketing person. Marketing people are great writers usually.
Mhm.
So ask them what they think about it. Also, what you can do on your own social media, if you're not doing this already, is you should start saving everything that you like that does something to you emotionally. Like you should screenshot it, or you should click that little save to collections button on Instagram or wherever you're getting your social. Because the more you cultivate your feed into what you like, the more you'll begin to understand more about your own voice. And as you tap into your own voice and validate it, it will become easier to write.
Oh my gosh. So I want to recap some of those tips because then I have a question on what you just said. But now I'm worried I'm gonna forget my question. So,
Write
but
down your question, write
okay.
it down.
Okay, I know I did. So I'm like, all right. So understanding your own voice, that's going to be my question. So you
Okay.
remember I wrote it. How can we do that? But I want to recap. So those were all really great tips. I loved the idea of writing out your day because I think about like I'm cat sitting right now. The cat is so needy, but she's also so cute. Like that could be a whole thing.
Right.
I had a great call today with someone who really energized me. I have meetings all day and like I feel so energized talking to people. I need to make sure my days are filled. Like that, I think that gave me a lot of good ideas to reflect back on the day. So 5 minutes, jot down what happened in the day, brainstorm with a buddy, brain dump your day. I loved that if you're in a vacuum, the antidote is to seek connection. That was brilliant. And then saving what you like, that's going to start to give you what, like a routine, a recipe, like an idea
Yeah.
of what resonates with you. That's very cool. I did that when I was building out my branding. I would like take pictures
Yeah.
of colors that I liked because I knew I wanted to be a colorful brand.
Yeah.
So let's talk about understanding our own voice like through that lens. What are other ways that people can do to identify what is their writing voice?
I think writing is a lot of listening.
Mhm.
I alluded to it earlier, but if we're really talking about the craft, okay, this is like the more of the art of it,
Mhm.
and where you get writing that's actually effective, you have to create space and time for it. So it might mean, yes, dedicating some time to it each day. And once you have that time, you need to get real quiet and still. And it does, I personally suggest, you know, a little bit of mindset work here, a
Mhm.
little bit of, okay, I'm going to ground myself. I'm going to become really present. I'm going to breathe a little bit, and I'm just going to let my mind open and see what's there.
Mhm.
And as ideas come up, you can start to listen, and you might not be able to hear anything at first. Your mind might be ping ponging back and forth with all the things you have to do. But the more you practice just this, just sitting, closing your eyes and breathing, it's meditating essentially, right? So it's not for everyone, but it really does impact your writing and your creative process of any kind. You have to get quiet and listen first, because once your authentic voice feels safe to come out, it will. As weird as that may sound to some people, it truly works. And this is what I do with my clients all the time. I'm like, just trust me. We're gonna sit. We're not gonna say anything. And they're like, okay, whatever. And don't you know it? I give them 10 minutes to just sit there and write, and things start coming out that they didn't even know was there. It doesn't always happen the first time. Stick with it. You know, stick with it, and don't edit it. Don't judge it. You know, your job is not to critique your own work. Your job is to honor it, to just record it. You're like almost an observer to your voice.
Oh, that's cool. I was going to ask you when you do that with your clients, what's the feedback? Is there resistance? Do
Yeah.
people like it?
I mean, sometimes there is resistance, but usually they trust me wholeheartedly. You know, they're like, okay, well, this is a little weird, but you know, the people who seek out me as a coach or work with me individually for like a book or like a passion project, they're more open to this.
Mhm.
This type of work I probably would not do with like a hedge fund manager who needs like an investor pitch deck. That's not a fit for
Oh,
that.
I dare you though.
Well, hey, I might take
Try
that
it and
challenge.
come back and tell us how it goes.
Yeah, right, 2024, anything could happen. It's gonna get wild. Uh, so yeah, there's a little resistance at first, but usually they do it. Like it is magical. It's a magical moment. And people who want that will seek it out, and they know what I'm saying. They hear what I'm saying. It's not for everyone, but it does work.
Do you recommend like your phones in the other room or in a drawer? Like, are you removing distractions? Like, what other things can people do to like get into writing mode?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think it's whatever you need. Like for me personally, it's funny when I write, I am multitasking usually. So I write a little bit, I look at my phone, I write a little bit, I like look at the web, like I'm all over the place. So for me, that's my process, and it's a process I've honed over the years, and I know that it works for me. So if you like to multitask, don't take that away from yourself, because again, the idea is to create an environment where you feel totally welcome to be who you really are. So
Mm,
do that if it feels good. But if you need to shut it all down, yeah, put your laptop on focus mode. Put your phone in the other room, put it on do not disturb if you need to, so that people know you're kind of doing something. Yeah, shut your office door. I have signs on the door all the time, do not disturb.
mm.
And also, with the writing, as a writer, myself, I have a lot of ideas that come to me when I'm not even trying to find them. And at first I would be like, oh, I'll remember that. But I'm not going to remember it. So I immediately take out my phone. I just put it in my notes app. And
Okay.
so I have like 500 notes that are like, you know, this poem, or this half baked idea. But then you go back to them and you're like, oh my gosh, yeah, there's something there. So once you kind of tell your brain that you will be doing this, it gets in line. It starts giving you ideas to record. So I definitely recommend keeping something at hand that you can keep those ideas written down on. Whether that's your phone or your computer, or dictating. Dictating is a great thing too. Take a voice memo.
Right. Oh, I feel like what you just said there is, I kind of feel like once I started the business, it like opened a portal in my brain. It's like weird to say it that way, but
Yeah.
I just have ideas dropping in, and it's like there's just not enough time to do all these things and build all these businesses and write all these books yet, but it doesn't mean that they can't happen. And I think I've started to experience that with writing more consistently. It's is becoming easier.
And that's where the practice comes in, and that's because you're validating the whole process, right? And you're not judging yourself, and it's coming from a flow state. This is what they talk about when they talk about flow state, right? Like it's easy, it's accessible, and you're honoring it by always, yeah, by always acknowledging it. So it's important.
Oh yeah, so I wrote the outline for my Christmas movie. We're recording this in December, and I had it was like Sunday morning. I built a fire, I had my laptop, and I wrote the whole outline for the movie in like an hour. And
Oh
it
my
came out
gosh.
so easy. And obviously now that it's that outline's there, I'm changing it as we
Right.
go, and same thing. I've been putting things in my notes. And the other day I was looking at something and it was like, the antagonist is gonna da, 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 da. I was like, what is that? Oh yeah, okay, that's for the Christmas movie. But it is kind of funny to see, like, I liked your comment about just write it all first and don't edit it.
Yeah, for sure. And the other thought I had while we were talking just now is find a creative partner.
Mm,
Um,
mhm,
I write screenplays myself, not a lot, but when I do write screenplays, I always have a creative partner. And so we write it together. We have Zoom sessions all the time. But if that's not your thing, to really truly co-author something with somebody, at least you could have perhaps a mastermind group where
mm.
there's few of you who are working on your own projects, have a little power hour of actually writing, and then maybe sharing some things back and forth. And if you get stuck, you guys can get each other out. You can have shared editing responsibilities and that type of thing. Again, it's the connection. Creation thrives on connection.
I like that a lot. And that applies to anything. It could be a LinkedIn post, it could be an email. Like, I think now that I'm self-employed, I have other people call me and say, "Can I read this email to you before I send it to my client?" I'm like, "Sure." So it's almost like we've built our own little coworker posse. I don't know the right word for that, but like it's been really helpful because you're not creating in a vacuum.
Yeah, yeah, and you know, I see it a lot where people have this sort of like just really intense self-reliance,
Mm,
right? But we're not going to get there alone at all. So when you struggle with something, reach out. Like people love to be reached out to. Like think about how you feel when somebody calls you and considers you a good enough friend, a great enough expert in the field to seek your advice and wisdom on something that will have a great impact on their business. I mean, that's huge for them to do. And so to give that to someone else to say, hey, man, I have this thing. Could you look it over? I mean, that's not a burden at all. It's actually a gift. It's the gift to allow them into your world and into your process and to have a bit of piece of what you're offering to the world.
You know, that's so interesting you say it that way. I had a meeting earlier today with someone and it was supposed to be a 30-minute call. It turned into an hour and 30. And luckily we both had the time. And this guy he's a digital marketer. He's going to be on the podcast coming up, but he was giving me so many interesting ideas and feedback points that finally I said, can I pull up my 2024 business plan to you? And
Oh
it's
my
a
God.
person I do not know. And I gave him like all the behind the scenes stuff of numbers, what I want to do for the new
Wow.
year. I asked him his opinion on some of the things I want to create, and like he gave me some different feedback. But I felt so grateful that he gave me so much of his time because I know it's valuable, but I know he got a lot out of it too. And that is absolutely like what's the word I'm looking for? Like a
It's a
momentum effect.
symbiotic.
Yeah, like and it maybe I won't help him in the same way, but I can help somebody else. And it's just like this cool momentum cycle that keeps building. And I think especially with writing, like the action, like just sitting down and doing it is important, but the actual execution of it is just as important. Do you find that there's either people that take action and don't execute or try to execute without taking the proper action? Like, what's the blend there?
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, I think what I tend to see most is the clients have a problem executing. That's a lot of what happens. That's why they contact me, because a lot of times they have the ideas, they have the desire, but they kind of don't know where to start, or they're feeling overwhelmed. And that's kind of where we were saying earlier, to break it down into manageable chunks. I
Mhm.
mean, all of this is really delegation and management, and looking at your writing as something, just another thing to accomplish. You can take the weight right off of it, but sometimes people can't. And that goes way back. A lot of people have stuff. I mean, you got to think about when we were kids, right? Learning to write and read in school. And some of us did not have the most supportive
Mm.
environments, right? Some of us didn't have the best teachers or support from others. And so sometimes we didn't get the best messaging and support around our own work. And so that remains to this day, even if we're not aware of it.
Oh, that's interesting because I just told you I found all of my old high school newspapers that I wrote, and I found this. I guess we wrote a lot of poems in middle school and elementary school and high school. Like found all my poetry notebooks, and I tossed them all, but I took pictures of them before I scanned them. And one of the things that was really interesting, I don't remember this at all, but it must have been ninth grade, and we had to have a colleague, someone in our grade, a classmate. I grew up in a small town, so we all know all the same people. But classmate would have to write and read and review, like a peer review.
Yeah.
And it was so interesting to see like these people that I haven't seen in 20 something years, but they're writing like, I can really hear your voice. It's like I'm there. Like it was a really positive environment. And I think maybe that's why like I don't have a bad relationship with writing. I think it's just it's like I'm revisiting an old friend and we're getting to know each other after a long time, and kind of still flushing each other out.
Well, and I think that's the other side of the coin. This the same idea, just the opposite, is like there are things we live many lifetimes, right? All of us live so many lifetimes. And sometimes these lifetimes come through, right? To like we hold parts of each of our experiences and we bring them forward. And sometimes we let them go and we forget all about it. And then that part gets reawakened at some point, and you're like, oh wow, this is really deeply rooted. For example, when I went to college, I got out of college and I went into nonprofit management for like 6, 10 years. I wasn't going to be a writer. I loved writing, but I wasn't going to do it. And the voice inside me just sort of kept prompting me to do it. And I finally did it. But as I have run this business and I've submitted bios and thought about my journey, I really think back to 6th grade when
Mhm.
I won the Young Authors Contest for
Ooh.
my poem about my paper route. So, it's like it comes full circle. It really does. Like, if you can honor like who you were as a little kid, like you never know. I don't know.
Oh my gosh. Well, I found a poem that I did post on LinkedIn and I made a joke that I was gonna make it my new LinkedIn bio, but the poem was 4 lines. So I remember it. It said, Sarah is smart and willing to play, ready to rumble, and likes Beanie Babies. That was the whole poem. I got an A. Jeez. But it is kind of funny, and on it, and then I found another poem. I don't remember this one off the top of my head, but it was about like Utah is beautiful, the weather is nice, not as nice as California. Utah works for me. And as soon as I could, I moved to California from Utah. So it's almost like your little fifth grade self manifested your future. But what do you do? So I feel grateful that I think I had a nice supportive environment around writing. But what can people do if they feel they maybe had a negative experience or a less supportive environment?
Yeah, and I've worked with friends and clients who come with serious trauma
Mm.
around that. So what I do with them is we don't even start with writing. We don't touch writing for like a few sessions. We just talk
Oh.
because I want to create a safe space for them to get comfortable expressing themselves. It's that voice thing, right? Like just letting, asking, I come with a few questions, a few prompts, and we just talk through them. Usually in a writing process, you write your answers out to a prompt, right? But in this case, what we do is we talk about it. And usually I will record the session and then I will transcribe it for them so that they can see how they speak, which is typically easier for someone who struggles with writing. And
Mhm.
then they see their language, their beautiful language written out, and they begin to see themselves as they truly are. And it is a transformation. And it doesn't happen immediately because there's a lot of fear. And truthfully, yeah, like people haven't been able to learn how to spell or do grammar or any of that, but nothing like that doesn't matter because we have machines for all of that, right? We have editors for all of that. What matters is what do they really want to say? What's their story? And so I come from a heart space. Like in my bio, that's why I say heart to heart, because it takes a lot of time to kind of work through that with people. And my goal with a session like that is to just validate, is to create safety, is to give them a positive experience so that they can come back and say, wow, that was really great. Let's do it again.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't think I would have made the tie between like our history from an emotional standpoint and how that impacts positively or negatively our experience with writing. That's
Yeah.
very
And, it's like sometimes in business, it's really, cut and dry and there's no room for this type of discussion, right? So I get it. But like there's going to be a moment where you're in front of your computer, you're under a deadline, you're like, why can't I write this? Like what is happening? Why am I blocked? And it could be a million reasons. But like it's okay if this is the reason.
mm, yeah, that's I could see it being very validating
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
makes sense. So what I mean, so we have emotional blocks, then we have writer's block. Are they one and the same or are they different things?
Writer's block. It happens to us all. In fact, I have a cool little freebie download all about how to overcome writer's block, and we'll link that in the show
Oh,
notes.
awesome. Okay, great. Yeah.
But yeah, writer's block it's a thing that happens to everybody where you just simply cannot write, and there are technical ways to overcome it, logistical ways to overcome it. There's a lot of tips in that little download, but
Okay.
I'll give you one little thing I do, which is, if I'm struggling with how to write something, maybe I have a work in progress, but it's like sounds terrible, it doesn't look at all like I intended. I'll get up and I walk away from it.
Mm,
I'm like, peace, like I cannot deal with you right now. And this is kind of true for anything, right? Like, do not struggle for longer than like 10 minutes with any task, like especially as a solopreneur or entrepreneur. Our time is just too valuable and our mental space is too valuable. So, if it's not working, it's not working. Even if you're under a deadline, put it down, go do something else, come back to it. If it's still causing you trouble, well, then you might need to call in some reinforcements, have somebody else look at it and suggest a different starting point. Or what I like to do is also kind of start at a different spot. Like if I'm trying to work on a beginning of something, even a LinkedIn post, for example, like we've been talking about. If I can't start it, but I know where I want to end it, I'll work on the ending.
oh, that's a great tip.
Yeah.
Start at a different spot. And then you had kind of alluded to it earlier, but I feel like I would be remiss if we didn't talk a little bit about AI and
Mhm.
ChatGPT. And I would just share my one of my 2024 resolutions is to embrace AI more.
Good.
I feel like I've been a little resistant, and it's mainly it's just like, oh, I don't want to learn another thing, but I also don't want to get left behind. And ChatGPT sometimes comes up with like the ew, like it's icky. It's like, this sounds like a computer wrote this, and then I end up redoing the whole thing. So, how can we start to embrace AI in our relationship to writing?
Yeah, I mean, I think it just really is a matter of understanding what it's good at and what it's not good at. It is
Mhm.
not good at writing, right?
Okay.
But it's good at generating ideas for you, like starting something to respond to, right? Like sometimes I use it when I'm writing something and I just don't know how to start it. And I literally type in what we've already talked about, which is like, write such and such in this voice. And then it comes out like crap, but it at least gets my wheels turning, you know? So that's one way to use it. Another way to use it is for research. You know, it's a little bit similar to Google, but you can use a simpler language with it. You can talk to it as a real person and kind of hone what you're looking for. And so you can easily pull in, you know, research and data and stuff like that. You can also reformat stuff easily. Like, let's say you told it to write, you know, a 2-page paper on the value of connecting to your client. And it just sort of wrote it in a narrative paragraph way. Then you can tell it to insert some bullets. Then
Mhm.
you can tell it to insert some lists. And from there, you can start to see like how information is broken down, right? And you can start to think, oh, well, maybe this isn't an article at all. Maybe this is a list. Maybe this is a different format. And so writer's block and getting stuck and all that stuff, the idea to get out of it is to create forward momentum, to do something different, to keep moving and not just keep doing the same thing over and over again. So even if it sounds crazy or looks weird, do it.
Okay, I like that. And I'm
Yeah.
gonna have a better relationship with ChatGPT moving forward. It's
Yeah,
not
I mean, you
it's
know,
kind
it is a robot. It's a robot. So like whatever you produce with Chat GPT, you need a human to edit it and to write it eventually. Like you can tell books, like lead generator books, it's very popular right now, right? For people to write lead generator books fully in AI. Fine. But it's not, you can tell that an AI wrote it. If
yeah.
that's what you want, that's cool. It's all good. Like chill. Use it efficiently. And if it works for you, great. I'm all about efficiency, save time. But yeah, if you want a little bit more of a human voice, then you can't rely totally on ChatGPT.
Agree. It's gotta be like we're a symbiotic relationship with a
Right.
bot assistants.
That's right. That's right.
What a weird time.
I know.
Um, okay, well, I feel like one of the things that has been really impressive to me in this conversation is how many different tools you gave us. I really like the brainstorming session with other people. I like the just start writing. I like the get grounded for a few minutes and breathe and connect with yourself and then write uninterrupted and don't edit as you go. Are there any other, before we wrap up, any other thoughts or takeaways you want to leave our audience with, and kind of what's our final thoughts here on our relationship to our writing?
I think the final thought here is if you're here listening to this episode, there's a reason for it.
Mhm.
And you may not know what reason that is, or you may, but your task now is not to go out and create the great American novel or the great investor pitch deck. Your job now is to honor yourself, honor your brand, honor your story. Give yourself space to be who you really are. And when I say you, I mean you individually, but I do mean your team. Give
Mhm.
your team all the space they need to create wonderful, innovative ideas for you. Give your whole company the space that they need. Be willing to risk, like looking like a fool, to get to the heart of what you're really doing in the world. Because at the end of the day, your writing, your company and your service, it is an offering to the world. We've said this, and it is the way that we stay connected. It is the way we make a difference, and it's the way that we're going to go into the into the future, even with robots.
Yeah, I see that very much. And I think that a lot of people that are successful with like that heart to heart, human to human relationship, not B2B or B2C, but like that human to human path forward is where we're all heading into the future. And I appreciate you wrapped that up so beautifully. You could tell you're a writer. And you have a
Well,
way with words. That was so
I mean, and the other thing I would say, don't wait. Like life changes so fast. And to have a piece of writing that somebody you admire has written, somebody you love has written, it is their legacy. It is what you hold in your hand after they have gone. And so wouldn't you be someone like that for someone else? You have a legacy to leave. It is not too late. You can start it today. And the question is, what do you want your legacy to be?
Ooh, that's a heavy question, but I like that that's where we're going to end our interview. What do we want our legacies to be? That's very cool. Thank you, Sarah. So you have a freebie that we'll link up in the show notes. What is the freebie again?
It's emergency writing intervention, overcoming writer's block fast. So there's 5 tips and there's 5 bonus tips on how to get over it really quick so you can get that document out the door before the deadline.
Okay, I like that. That'll help us like get the kick in the pants to take action. And then
Right.
I will link up everything in the show notes with your contact details, but where can people find you if they want to learn more or hire you or connect to see if you'd be a fit?
Yeah, absolutely. www.theempireexpander.com. There's a lot of double E's in that. You'll see it. And I'm on LinkedIn as well and Instagram. So
Awesome. Okay, well, Sarah, thank you so much for your time. I'm excited to get writing.
holla. That's right. Thanks so much, Sarah. It was great.